It was supposed to be one big battle, then go home. But it became in Jefferson County, Virginia, 1,300 days of strife, never knowing who would die, go to prison, be robbed, removed from your home, or when all your crop was carted off. Yet, for those freed African Americans and once enslaved, the hour had struck for greater freedom and new, better worlds. Jefferson County witnessed the John Brown raid in 1859, destruction of its bridges and railroads at least 7 times by both sides, the determined destruction of its barns, harvests, and carrying off of livestock by General Philip Sheridan, the terrors and theft of Mosby's raiders and others like him roaming about. A hunchback boy of the Washington family, 16 years old, was hauled to Fort McHenry while herding sheep because a private deemed him the enemy. The innocent, caught in the dumb, cruel dragnet of war, a common theme. By God, it certainly was not just one big battle. This is an almanac of war for 1862 in Jefferson County, Virginia. A brief chronological flyover of war in Jefferson County in the late summer and autumn of 1862. The impossible autumn. August 23rd. Weather, rain in the morning. Train attack between Summit Point and Wade's Depot. Henry D. Bell, who after the war became the editor of the Baltimore Sun, wrote of the August 23rd attack on the train. The distance between the two depots is 4 miles. At 4 o'clock, the railroad was reached, and in a few minutes the sound of the engine was heard. And now began the exciting hour. And obstructions were at once placed on the track to bring the train to a halt. On came the train, which had now reached within 100 yards of the obstruction. The command was given to halt, but the frightened engineer took no heed of the command. A fire was at once opened upon the speeding train from more than a dozen revolvers, and in a moment the obstruction was reached and the train came to a dead halt. The engineer was at once dethroned and the cars entered. The first thing to be done was to secure the Yankee soldiers on board, 8 in number, who were on the way to join their companies in Winchester. The poor creatures looked a picture of astonishment and despair, and submitted without resistance to the rebel boys. The agent of the Adams Express Company, in an attempt to escape, was shot at and badly wounded in the thigh. The express car was entered, and a rich exhibition unfolded itself to our almost famishing boys. Baskets of champagne, boxes of delicious peaches, apples, pears, oranges, lemons, etc., were discovered and pitched into. Never did men partake of good things with better appetites. The boys drank to the health of everybody in general and their sweethearts in particular. The express safe was opened, and United States money to the amount of $4,000 consigned to some federal paymaster at Winchester was extracted, together with a number of other valuable articles. All the valuables having been secured, nothing was left to be done at this point but to destroy the cars. Fires were built in the 2 passenger cars and 1 express car, and the pine piled on to facilitate the burning. And here a sigh involuntarily escaped from some of us. To see the old low-back cars upon which many of us had made pleasant journeys, consigned to the devouring element, brought up in memory's train remembrances of lang syne, and thoughts of mothers and sisters near came rushing over us, for the old train had been the medium of many happy hours and pleasant communications between us and home. The old cars burned magnificently, and the fiery tongue of the flames seemed to almost lick the lower clouds. A full head of steam was put on the engine, and with the furnace heated 10 times hotter than it was wont to be, the old machine was started in the direction of Winchester. No tales could be told, for she was entirely unoccupied. The progress of the engine up the track as far as could be seen was rich indeed. The old thing went thundering along, and the unevenness of the track caused her machine to tumble up and down in a promiscuous manner. How far she went, and what was thought of her progress, I do not pretend to say. Farewell, old friend. You have been blowing a long time. Lieutenant Rowland, with 13 men, took charge of the prisoners and started back by the route we came, whilst the other 17 remaining men under Lieutenant Rouse and Baylor determined to penetrate farther into the enemy's country. The track was crossed, and "For Smithfield" was the rallying cry. The surprise and capture of Smithfield later on August 23rd. Roger Preston Chew wrote of the August 23rd Smithfield event. Lieutenant Rouse, with these men, moved in the direction of Smithfield, 5 miles distant. When they arrived within half a mile of the town, the blue uniforms of the Yankee pickets were discovered. Thinking we were a scouting party of their own men, Rouse and his party approached within 20 yards of them before they discovered who they were. The command was given to charge, and before they could fire a shot, our men were upon them and captured all 3 with their arms and equipment. These pickets informed our men that there were 14 of their companions in town. A charge was made, and the 14 Yankees were captured, being taken completely by surprise. The spoils amounted to 17 horses, 20 revolvers, 5 Sharps carbines, saddles, bridles, and other trappings. Federal soldier Christopher Newcomer wrote of the same event on August 23rd. The men had been in the village several weeks, the citizens showing them every courtesy, inviting them into their homes, and entertaining them in the most hospitable manner. The boys lost their usual vigilance. Lieutenant Milling, the officer in charge, with a sergeant and several men, accepted an invitation to attend a party several miles from the camp. They were promised a good time. The lieutenant's head was turned by the persuasion of a beautiful woman. The party was gotten up simply for the purpose of getting the officer from the camp, and the ruse was successful. Captain Baylor, with his company of Confederates, many of them from this very town, were notified that the commanding officer was absent. Baylor took advantage of the circumstances and charged the camp, capturing 13 of our number, not, however, without exchanging a number of shots. Lieutenant Milling was cashiered and dismissed from the service. On September 2nd, weather very cold, like fall. About 9 a.m., 6 men in the local Virginia 12th Cavalry dashed down the Cable Town or River Road to near Key's Ferry and captured the outer vidette, a quarter of a mile from his comrades and forced him to inform them of the position of the others, who were at that time in a corn shed dismounted. The cavalrymen then dashed in and captured the party, taking 8 prisoners with their horses and equipments without loss. September 3rd and 4th. Weather was with frost early that morning before dawn and cold all day on the 3rd, warm again on the 4th. Near Charlestown, a skirmish. Charlestown farmer Charles Agleby wrote in his farm diary of the September 3rd event. Learned from Mr. Fawcett that the Federals were evacuating Charlestown. Agleby then wrote on September 4th, there was a skirmish between some Confederate Rangers and Federal cavalry. Carrie Selden was shot in the mouth, and a Federal soldier was shot in the groin. The Federals retired towards Harper's Ferry. Anna Hoof wrote in her diary for September 4th, skirmish with the Yankees, Lieutenant Rouse and Carrie Selden were wounded. The former was on his way back home and was taken prisoner. September 12th, weather pleasant. A Halltown skirmish. Federal General Julius White reported on the September 12th incident near Halltown. As White's men were evacuating from Martinsburg, marching to Harper's Ferry, the pickets of the enemy were encountered at Halltown, but they were driven back to Charlestown, the command arriving safely at Harper's Ferry on the afternoon of the 12th.